All my days. Seems like they have been wasted, eh? Bueno. Just goes on to show. Till I'm laid to rest. Yes, always be depressed. There's no life in the way, so I know the
I had a tribute for Mikey Chung yesterday, so I was a little bit caught up in activities the week, and but today is a day to kind of recover.
Yes, yes, King.
Actually, watching a little bit of football right now.
Rest in power to the late and great Mikey Chung. Yes,
musician.
Did you grow up in the country or city in Jamaica?
I grew up in the city. I've always lived in the city. I'm probably about 13, 14 years old at the time, because the music was very much part of where I lived, and I grew up in a community that a lot of young guys who are also aspire to be musicians. And we're all friends. We were part of a youth club together, and we all had shared the same interest in music. And so occasionally I will have them come by my home. We're just learning our instruments. So in my mid-teens, pretty much 13, 14.
You have produced and created and have helped create greatest songs in reggae history for people like Maxi Priest, Beres Hammond, Peter Tosh, Buju, Banton, Burning Spear, Rick Ross, and the list goes on. The list goes on
and on. I could see you could spend the whole program just calling names. And so many that you don't know, or nothing came off their efforts. Because unfortunately not every song is guaranteed any success, and you have to try. Producers can address that. They can tell you that they'll invest in recording lots of songs, doing albums, that sort of thing, but there's no guarantee. And you might it's like a hit or miss business in some cases. You go and you do maybe 5 different rhythms or 5 songs with a particular artist, and most times if it's somebody who's not yet established, you might have a problem breaking through.
What special memory stands out from all these great sessions?
There are a lot of memories, and sometimes I don't dwell on certain things, but there are things you will there's recording and there was touring. If you're talking about recordings, having the opportunity to work with great musicians and great singers and great producers, and and because of my involvement over the years, I've also been asked to perform with what you can call global stars. Not necessarily that they came seeking me out, but I was just involved with projects that like with Sly and Robbie, they had established themselves so much that people will come and ask Sly and Robbie to do things. And having worked with them, over the years, I would be often asked to be part of, what they were doing with some people. I recorded with Sting, Manu Dibango, Cyndi Lauper, Ali Campbell, Simply Red, and quite a few people, so those moments stand up because of the nature of the status of some of these people. And on tours, you get to travel with, for the most part, when I was touring, mostly it was with Peter Tosh, who was a big star. The spin-offs from that is that he would attract a lot of attention from other music people, and and just regular, well, not regular, but people who are stars in their own rights, whether they acting, or public figures, and having had the chance to meet them, even just to shake hands and say hello, sometimes some of those memories kind of stay along with you. All right, well, when Maxi Priest came to Jamaica, he had already had songs, that I didn't know about, or an album. And, I just heard that Maxi Priest, where I was asked to work with him because Sly and Robbie were the main producers along with Willie Lyn. Willie Lyn did, most of the technical stuff. And, I did not necessarily hang around the studio like when they were doing the voicings and some of the other stuff. I was just primarily involved with the laying of the rhythm tracks. So Maxi Priest came to Jamaica and I was asked to be the keyboard player on it, although Maxi also brought another keyboard, his personal keyboard player from England, a guy named Duncan Bridgman. But, I was sort of the person to inject most of the reggae elements into the music. Because Maxi, apparently, he had this Jamaican heritage, and he had relatives who were, popular like Jacob Miller, and he just wanted to be kind of become more Jamaican in his music, although, you know, he was working with good musicians in England, you know, who did reggae primarily. And when he came to Jamaica, you know, he had a set of songs that he was going to record. You know, he brought like his demos and that sort of thing. And then when it came on to Wild World, there was some type of I think he resented it. He said he didn't like the song, and he didn't necessarily want to do it. But he came with his manager and producer, a guy named Erskine Thompson. As far as I know, Erskine was the one who literally asked him or begged him to do the song. And you know, but you know, as I said, Maxi wasn't necessarily, you know, loving the song as it is, but you know, we laid the track, and you know, it was on the album, and it became the first single from the album, and it was a hit. You know, so you know, and as I probably said in that YouTube interview that I did, you know, that kind of brought Maxi to a different audience, or an additional audience other than what he was known in. You know, and then he started to interact more with Jamaican entertainers. You know, he did the duets. You know, he with Shabba. He did work with different producers who were into dancehall type elements of reggae music, and he kind of accepted all of that too, because as I said, you know, Maxi just wanted to be a little bit more Jamaican, more than being Jamaican influenced in England, you know. So you know, it kind of set him up, you know, on a bigger scale as far as I'm concerned. Not that Maxi would have, you know, gone on to be a mega star, you know, but this kind of helped to speed up the process.
Yeah. So what are some of your memories working with Carly and Family Man? Because during the 80s, working with people like Alpha Blondie, working on the, you know, on the Jerusalem album, working with people like Jimmy Riley and all of these people. What memory stands out, you know, working with people like Carly and Family Man? So Carlton Barrett and Family Man Barrett.
Well, when I did work with Carly and Fams in the early days, you know, we're just like being used as session musicians, like nothing to do with like Bob Marley, you know, which is what Carly and Family Man were more known for. Although before that they were part of a group produced by Lee Perry. Yeah. But there was, I can't really single out anything. We just meet up from time to time, and you know, not necessarily both of them, because the last sessions that I can remember were done like in the 80s. You know, it was not necessarily Carly and Family Man, because there were some tracks that I did with Carly, and it was, you know, it was with a different bass player, but those sessions were like with Gregory Isaacs, you know, Hard Drugs, Rhythm, and a couple others for a producer named Todd. I would have done sessions also with Family Man, but I honestly don't remember, you know, who the singers were, because it's just like you get a call to go to the studio. Sometimes you don't know what you're gonna be doing. You just turn up and, you know, you just work on the song. But it was just a casual, you know, interaction with both of them. You know, of course, I also did a tour, you know, with Family Man and Carly. And funny you should mention Jimmy Riley's name, because in early 80s, I think, Jimmy Riley did an album mainly with the Wailers. Somehow when he was going to promote the album, he asked me to come as one of the keyboard players, because Wailers was also part of that. So I actually did a tour, you know, for Jimmy Riley with Family Man and Carly. You know, and that's as close as I really got to them, you know, touring on you know, staying at the same hotel, traveling on the same bus. You know, Carly sometimes was a little bit erratic, you know, and Family Man is you know, he had Family Man is the one who is trying to be, you know, the cool guy at all time, and you you know, Carly was known to that. If somebody rubbed him the wrong way, he'd let them know it, you know. And Family Man is always the one trying to kind of cool down. But you know, that's as much as my interaction with them. You know, apart from them being great musicians, you know, which I enjoyed working with both of them because, you know, to this day, I mean, there's only one Carly, you know, nobody can. And Family Man, you know, he introduced Robbie Shakespeare, so he has his own legacy also.
Rastafari! On bass, Aston, Family Man Barrett, world famous Wailers. Let's hear some bass. Drum on the bass. We cooking now. On drums, world famous Mr. Carlton Barrett. On rhythm guitar, a little spice right here. We call him Lloyd Willis, but we call him Git. On synthesizer, a studio musician out of Jamaica. You hear it, he plays it. Mr. Robbie Lyn. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Jimmy Riley Experience. Do you want some more? You gotta scream louder than that. One more time for the band.
About it. And funny enough, one of my top 5 albums, I didn't play on it. It was an album produced by Willie Linder for Dennis Brown, which was recorded in New York, you know, with Baba Jean and thing, and you know, I don't remember all of the names of the songs. I'm not sure. I don't think it was an inseparable album. It could have been that one, you know, but it was. That is one of my top, you know, one of my favorite albums. You know, I put that right up on top there. I'll have to think about the top 5, you know, but you know, I guess you know, Bob Marley had so many great ones. He alone could fill the top 5. You know, all of those albums, you know, Natty Dread and Kaya, all of those. Could, you know, just pick any one or two and put in top 5. You know, so I leave that up. You know, it's just hard to pick a direct. You know, album from Bob, because they're all so great. And I have to put Peter Tosh in there, probably the first album that I had worked on, you know, the Bush Doctor album, you know, and the Mama Africa album also. I'm going to probably go by 5, you know, but I'm just calling out names that, you know, come into mind. Because I really never thought about a top 5. But definitely the Dennis Brown album, you know, it could be the inseparable album, or it could be you know, but if you know, I probably, you know, have to go check my inventory to see which one to read. I don't want to call the wrong name. Wanted album was done at Dynamic Studios. Right, because when I just joined up with Peter, we had to go to New York to record because he was signed by Rolling Stones. Mick Jagger and Keith Richards primarily had just started their own label. And we went to New York and did the Bush Doctor album. And then after that, I played on about three or four more Peter Tosh albums, which are all recorded at Dynamic Sounds. The last one, Mama Africa, you know, he used back some tracks that were previously recorded from sessions with Sly and Robbie, but for the most part, the new songs like Johnny B. Good and you know, a couple other songs were with some of the newer musicians, Davis on drums, and we had to get a freelance bass player for those sessions, which is Liebert Gibby Marcy, because the band was in transition from Sly and Robbie as bass and drum to Santa and Fully, but Fully was, you know, living abroad and he never actually was able to perform on the album, but he later joined Peter as a touring musician.
What are some experiences and some memories working with the legendary upsetter Lee Scratch Perry? I saw this video, I think this was back in the 70s. I think you were in the video with the Congos, Junior, Mervyn.
Yeah, that was like a special television type of production, you know, that That song, I don't even remember what happened to that song. It's like that song was just made up for that thing. I know that a crew was coming to do a video, entry. It wasn't like a regular session that, this was like a third song for the documentary.
Yeah.
Because normally you wouldn't see some, singers just hanging out like that, but they wanted the production and the documentary to look a little bit more impressive.
Feeling fresh, feeling good, feeling as the way man I said there. Feeling red, maka high.
Junior Mervyn, Upsetters and the Heptones all rehearse here.
Scratch's real name is Lee Perry. He regards all the greats, including Bob Marley. Even Paul McCartney is coming here from England, because Scratch has a sound and a rhythm of his own. He calls it rockers. When Scratch begins a session, first he balances drum and bass for the basic rhythm. Ghetto music, always drum and bass. Then Scratch will balance all the other instruments till he's ready to start recording. When the balance is right, the Upsetters lay down the rhythm track. That's how reggae is recorded.
Let's go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Though there seems to be no kind of order or discipline, Scratch knows exactly what he wants, and the musicians respect that.
1, 2, 3, 4.
By other people's standards, the instruments may sound distorted, the balance way off. But it's just these rough edges that give reggae the kind of raw sound they can never copy abroad. When Scratch is happy with the rhythm, he'll get Junior Mervyn and the Heptones to put the vocals on. Rhythm and then lyrics. That's how Scratch describes reggae. Rhythm from the ghetto, lyrics from the streets.
Yes, Rasta. Play on, Mr. Music. Play on. Won't you play on, Mr. Music? Play on. There's a chalice is burning, the jammers are rolling. Getting ready for the jammers are rolling. Getting ready for the show. Oh, play on, Mr. Music. Play on. Won't you play on, Mr. Music? Play on. Rather dick in the corner is licking this thing. The drummer's about to roll it. So play on, Mr. Music. Play on.
But other than that, you know, I had worked with Leaper, you know, as did a lot of other musicians, a lot of different keyboard players, you know. But I would have played on tracks for Junior Mervin, Max Romeo, Leaper himself. You know, he made a few songs as an artist. You know, but he was very unique. He was a different type of producer, and his studio, no other studio sounded like his studio, because, you know, he the type of equipment that he was using, and I never really studied what he was using. But the thing about his sound is that the whole production, all of the instruments and the voice, he ran through a processor called a Mutron biphase. You know, he just had all of his songs having that particular sound. I know other people in modern day have tried to emulate, you know, capture that type of Leaper sound. But he, you know, he when he was producing it, he was, you know, comical at times, you know, just how he danced and got involved with music, and they could tell you what that's like, or, you know, if they asked you to play something and couldn't really explain it to you, you know, when they heard it, they can say, yes, that's what I want. And, you know, sometimes it's just kind of, you know, humorous to see them trying to get it out to you musically what they want. So sometimes what they try to do is dance, you know, to try to give you a vibe, you know, to get the tempo for the song, the swing of the song. And but he, you know, Lee Perry, you know, he was very creative, and you know, for those who know Lee Perry and his style, you can hear the influence on so many of Bob Marley's productions. Yeah. You know, there were certain words that Bob would sing, and you know right away that was Lee Perry's instructions. You know,
Yes.
You know, I was never really a producer and you know, demanded a certain type of thing. You know, I was just a freelance, a producer, a singer, would call me and I'll go. But the popular mixing board from the day was like the Sony console. One of the Sony consoles was like the talk about, you know, console, and then you know, others came like the Neve board, that sort of thing. But to me, it didn't really make any difference. It's what the engineer does, and you know. But as I said, I was not really involved with production or post production to know what the board and the outboard effects could do. Now it's a totally different thing now with the advent of all of this computerized things. You know, I mean, I'm at the studio just a couple of days ago, and what they're doing now, you know, was unthinkable. You know, you're taking one part of the song. I say, you know, I don't want the chorus so early in the song, or I don't want the horn section, and you just use a mouse and you click on this one, and then you move it to another part. And you know, all of the effects are built in. Some people like the old analog outdoor effects, you know, outboard effects. You know, now everything is built in solid state, you know, into the thing. So, but you know, but it didn't really matter to me. You know, from you have a good engineer who was capable of getting a good sound. You know, I just worked out with what, you know, what I got. I never really worked with Morgan Heritage. I love that group. I love their songs. I like the hook lines that they have. And I think they would have probably changed their style by now, because what Morgan Heritage used to do was work with producers like Penthouse and, you know, other producers who already had rhythm tracks built, and other artists would probably work on some of those tracks, and they'll come in with their interpretation, different song altogether. And I think I heard Grams address that recently on an interview, and he said, you know, those days were good days, but they'd rather be more creative and build their own things. But the only thing I really had to do with with Morgan Heritage was playing a rhythm track that was produced by Dean Fraser for VP Records, and they came in with a song. You know, I was not in the studio with them, you know, and other people came in and sang on that very same track. So I did not have direct involvement with them, and that could have been the only song. You know, there might have been other tracks that I had played on for other producers, which they might have put Morgan Heritage on it, but you know, nothing that comes to mind. Buju, similar situation. You know, Buju was for the most part an artist that recorded with Donovan Germain's Penthouse label, and I remember being called in specifically for a recording session because, as I said, there were tracks that were already done that, you know, like the one Brown, was it you know, there was a track that, you know, Martha Griffiths and other people were on, and Buju made a big hit that I had played on. But, you know, the one about Browning, you know, I don't remember the name, you know, the title of the song. But I would have played on tracks that he voiced over on after. And, but I remember there's a session, as I started to say, that his producer called in and said he wanted myself and Mikey Chung to come in and play because Buju wanted to record some scat type rhythms. So I guess Jermaine figured, okay, we're veterans, me and Mikey, you know, we were kind of part of that history of the music. And we came in and we did a couple of scat type tracks just for album purposes. You know, I don't think any of them became any singles, but they're just working on an album, you know, and you know, we just came in specifically to lay a couple tracks of ska rhythms. I was in a band called In Crowd. I actually became the band leader after a while. The band leader was Phil Callender, who literally brought me to Studio One. You know, he was a drummer at Studio One himself, and guitarist by the name of Eric Frater, who they call Ricka Backer. And they used to play when they were recording at Studio One, they were in a band called The Virtues, and I used to go to their rehearsals. But regards to, you know, so eventually we had the band called In Crowd with Phil as the band leader and his brother and other guys, you know, who, you know, were part of the group of guys that would come by my house until we started to put the music together. And so the now generation guys now, we're all three of them in particular. I went to the same high school with them. Val Douglas, Mikey Chung and his brother Jeffrey. We're all at St. George's College in the 60s. I left school in 67, Dougie. About the same time, all they was ahead of me in school, and Jeff and Mikey, we're all, you know, leaving school around the same time. But they were already into music. You know, they had little vocal groups and they were playing in little bands and things. So everybody at school knew that the Chung brothers were heavily involved with music. And it turns out that the Now Generation band was formed by another schoolmate of mine. You know, not formed by him, but he managed the group. When In Crowd was restructuring management, and you know, we didn't have good management, but we had somebody who was helping us, and we found somebody who wanted to invest in the band, and he said, okay, well, we're going to get organized, we're going to go to New York, buy some equipment. So we had like a break of 3 months. Not that we were that busy, but for those 3 months I actually started to play with the Now Generation band at their live performances. Along, you know, Wire Linda was the regular keyboard player, and Val Douglas and the two Chung brothers were the other main people in the band. And the drummer who now plays with Scatterlights was the first drummer, but he left Jamaica and was replaced by a guy they call Largy. So I played with them for a few months until now our band that I was involved with previously, In Crowd, got organized and we started to play. So So they have now generation doing their thing, and in-crowd doing, came off the road and concentrated mainly on studio recordings. And because we didn't have multi-track recordings those days, they decided to put me to play along with Wire, so we could have a fuller band sound. So for the most part, Wire Linda would be playing organ and I'd be playing piano. For many years, we had recorded, as No Gen or No Generation, and we had recorded with Federal Studios as a job, but we're also freelancing, working for other producers like Derek Harriott, who was producing songs for Dennis Brown, like Silhouettes, Things in Life. But there's another producer who had some big hit songs called Lloyd Matador. He was doing stuff with Abyssinians and Dennis Brown also. So my involvement with No Gen was mainly in the studio, while I was in crowd band playing, venues, concerts, that sort of thing. And until the band pretty much everything things kind of wear themselves out after a while for whatever reason. Why I had left to go play with Bob Marley, and started touring, and after that he left and he went to play with Taj Mahal, and he eventually went back with Bob Marley. And Val Douglas, might have he was around for a while, but then he eventually migrated and started living in New York. And everybody started to have different interests, By this time, the drummer in No Generation's studio recording band was the drummer from my band, in-crowd band, Mikey Boo Richards. Because the official drummer for No Generation, he had a 9-to-5 job. And he was not sure if he should give that job up to do recordings, because there's no guarantee that at the end of the week, he'll be doing anything. But No Generation was doing so well, we were always doing sessions. So Mikey was asked, to come and fill the drum seat and do, what turned out to be some of the biggest recordings that were done by No Gen, Breakfast in Bed for Lorna Bennett, and too many to mention.
Have you worked with, percussionists like Sticky Thompson, Bongo Herman, Carrots Jarrett? I mean, have you worked with percussionists before?
Yeah, man. Yeah, because even at the days at Channel 1 Studio, when Sly and Robbie started a lot of production as Taxi Gang, it was almost automatic, even before that a percussionist would have to be a part of the recording group. It's very seldom that a recording session did not have a percussionist. Sometimes even two percussionists. It could have been Sticky, it could have been Scully, Sky Juice, and whoever else. So most of the recordings that I played on with Sly and Robbie at Channel 1, and even a lot long after, Sticky was very, very much involved. With a lot of those recordings. Bongo Herman, I have not recorded with him of late, because different things have changed on the road recording thing, with the COVID thing had slowed down, and I really haven't seen Bongo Herman that much, but he played on a lot of recordings that I played on to. It is a bit different in terms that when you used to go to the studio to work for a producer, Lee Perry had his own studio, so he had the whole day to do what he wanted to do while everybody was available. A lot of the other producers, they try to get in as much as possible in a particular amount of hours per day. And we kind fortunately, the reggae music can be very simple, that it doesn't need a lot of arrangements and doing over the tracks too often. Probably try to get 6, 7, 8 backing tracks in a particular recording session. Those days have kind of gone now. A lot of the sessions that I go to now, depending on what the producer is trying to accomplish or the time that he has, he sometimes you just go to do one song, one rhythm track, or two, and they just concentrate on that. You know, one or two songs, and they focus on a particular song or a couple of songs. You know, what the producers used to do is just try to fill up a tape, you know, with 8 songs in a day, and then they pick out the best ones and try to work with those. You know, of course, we used to make rhythm tracks for particular songs. That's a big difference also. You know, somebody will come and sing a song, and you'll work out the music for it. Now the singers and the DJs and a lot of other artists now, they need to hear a rhythm track now before they can get an inspiration to write song. They might have a lyrical idea, but they don't have a melody. We were accustomed to going into the studio and listen to what the singer was saying and then work with him. Now the new generation of artists now, they have to hear something first. They cannot just start singing. They might hum a few little lines, but they don't have any real nothing of substance. So in that way, the whole production thing has changed. Our Word, Sound and Power, I was asked to join Word, Sound and Power. The name of the band was not really defined as yet, because Peter had started recording songs and he had left the Wailers group, and he was doing songs. You know, he did like 2 albums before I ended up working with him. He did the Legalize It album, and I always have a problem, you know, remembering the 2 albums that he did with Columbia. But when he was kind of being more progressive, I had just left the In-Crowd band. I think it was at the end of 1975, and within a few weeks, actually, his then manager, Herbie Miller, who just happened to live, you know, walking distance from me, and he knew who I was. You know, I just seen casually and we just waved, that sort of thing. He just came one day and said, Peter's putting a band together, you know, a regular band. He would have had musicians that if he had to go do a little tour, he just called this man. Sometimes it would be even Carly and Family Man, who played on most of his early recordings, because he had known them from the Wailers days. But no, you know, but those people were, you know, aligned with Bob Marley. So he wanted to have his own set of musicians. So by this time now, you know, Sly and Robbie were doing some stuff with him. And so when he asked me to join, I said, yes, I'll come and join the group. Sly and Robbie, you know, had just become full-time members. And, you know, but of course I would have known Sly and Robbie, you know, before that. You know, we occasionally would play on recording sessions as freelance musicians. So I became a full-time member of Word, Sound and Power from that time when I was asked to join Peter Tosh. And during the whole thing, you know, Sly and Robbie were the main, you know, musicians. You know, they're providing, you know, that heavy drum and bass, you know, up to the time that they had started production with Taxi label, which kind of eventually led to them, you know, leaving Peter to concentrate more on production. But the days with Peter really cemented our relationship with Sly and Robbie, because we were working so much together that when Sly would actually go into studio to do his production, you know, I was like part of the family now, you know. So, you know, up to this day, you know, I'm still working with Sly. I'm actually working with him this week a couple of times. You know, we work, you know, still have a good, you know, working relationship. I worked with Burning Spear at different times. I actually played on their very first recording song. When they came to Studio One in 1968, Burning Spear was a vocal trio. It was not band. It was Winston Rodney and his 2 background singers. And they came to Studio One, and the first song that they did, I played on it, was a song called Door Peep. And they had recorded a few other tracks at that time. But when the album came out, there were recordings with some other musicians who came to Studio One after I had left. And myself and some of the other musicians had left Studio One because Coxon had closed down production for a while. Then he started back, and then he shut it down again, and then he started back with different musicians. The Soul Defenders band with Vin Morgan and his brother, you know, came in and did some of those Burning, and Horsemouth, you know, came in and did quite a few of those Burning Spear recordings. So, you know, I was there from day one with Burning Spear, but I had never really interacted with them much after. And then I was called on a couple of occasions to do some keyboard overdubbings on some other other projects that they had done. And I remember it was Federal Studio at the time, which is now Tough Gang Studio. And you know, but those albums were not necessarily geared towards the Jamaican market. You know, they were done primarily for a particular label or company that, you know, I never really heard them being played. And it was not until the mid-90s now that when Burning Spear is now a single singer, you know, without, you know, his background singers, I was asked by his then drummer Nelson Miller, who was you know, a fairly good friend of mine. He said they were going to start recording down at Grove Studio in Ocho Rios, and I played on about 3 different albums. But I remember like songs like Let's Recall Some Great Men. At that time, he's now signed to Island Records. You know, so it's, yeah, you probably have all of that information. I'm sometimes just guessing and hoping I'm saying the right. Of course, quite a few songs about Marcus Garvey. So, you know, but by this time his sound was completely different. You know, he had this sharp horn section, and you know, so I'd go down to Ochios and work on a couple of his, you know, albums down there. For, you know, up to Rastaman Business, that would have been you know, the end of, you know, my involvement with them. To get involved with it, you have to learn, get an understanding of the business, whether you want to be into the recording thing, or you just want, you have to record before you become popular, you know, and then you start touring and that sort of thing. But the thing is to have a good understanding of the business, have some sort of legal, not necessarily legal representation, but have some knowledge of how not to be taken advantage of. Have somebody who you can ask for information of how, you know, how to deal with, you know, contracts and thing, you know, because eventually, you know, if you become popular or successful in the business, you're going to find yourself in a position that you kind of set organize in the proper way. You know, I mean, I can advise you, you know, if you're going to be a musician, yes, you have to practice, you have to be dedicated, you have to be serious about it. But at the end of the day, if it can all, you know, go down the drain if you don't have a knowledge of the business. Have somebody, you know, if you're fortunate enough that you can have your own manager, your own lawyer, your music lawyer to, you know, help you navigate through